So I've got Luco Koenigan here of the Glen Elly Wine Estate. And I mentioned to him the dish that we were cooking, and he brought along two of their wines. Luke, welcome. I know you guys are harvesting at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, but thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it is a busy time, but it's fantastic being here to see what the master is at work. So I thought I'd bring two wines along, which would pair very well with these dishes, I think. We've got the Grand Vin, which is our red blend. It's a 2009, and I think we can kick off with that, and then we'll move over to our Lady May, which is our premium cab, which is a 2011 vintage. So this Grand Vin is actually quite an interesting blend in the sense that it's a Shiraz base with Cabernet, Petit Verdot, and Merlot. So it's not your traditional Bordeaux blend. Yeah. But it really has its origins going back to the 1700s, and in Bordeaux, when they were doing a lot of export at that time, they used to bring Shiraz in and blend it into their varietals for the export market. So it goes back to pay homage to that sort of style. If you're looking at a modern day producer in Bordeaux that's doing it, is Chateau Palmer is producing the Palmer Historical, which is a similar sort of blend to this now as well. But what's interesting for me about it as well is that as it ages, it develops more and more, and the Shiraz component recedes into the background and gives a spicy edge, and the cab becomes more of the leading figure.
So more pronounced.
Exactly, and has more of the dark fruits coming through. And I thought that's why it would go quite well with this dish, because you've got some spicy tones, yet you've got the fruit tones coming through on it as well.
I find the dish quite interesting and in a way fun to pair wines with, you know, because it's not your traditional slow braised dish where you use a lot of wine and reduce it down. But you pick up more cleaner, sort of like distinct lamb flavors in there. It's sort of like an Asian dish, you know, we've used rice wine vinegar, there's some soy sauce in there, and it's got a bit of sweetness with the palm sugar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to tasting it with your wine.
I think it'll be a fantastic combination, because I also think with that slight fattiness that you get for the lamb coming through, with the freshness and the tannin structure of this, it's just going to cut it through and be a great partner with it.
And this is a 209 vintage, eh?
It's a 209 vintage, and the reason why we bottle aged it for longer is because with the Shiraz being in it, you need a bit of time for the two of them to start to gel together, the Shiraz and the cab. I mean, I often think about it like watching two heavyweight boxers in the ring, and the Shiraz is the fast starter of the two, and the cab comes into the fight later on. So you need to give it a bit of time.
I love how winemakers always talk about, you know, you talk about the wine as a living thing, because it is in a way, isn't it?
It is a living entity.
Yeah.
And I think a perfect example of it, actually, Ruben, is the Lady May 2011, because my first experience of that was actually when I first started working at Glen Elly. I flew to France to go and meet our owner, Madame de Lancassin. And she set up, at dinner, she said, I'm going to set you a benchmark that I would like you to achieve. And I thought if I was really lucky, I'd have one of the great Bordeaux vintages, like a 61 or a 47. But she pulled out the 1873 Lafite Rothschild for us to drink. Wow. And it was then that I realized that wine is a living entity, and it has longevity and finesse, and you can't see it as an inanimate object. So.
Great. So the next wine you mentioned, the Lady May, is this your flagship wine?
It is our flagship. It's our flagship cab. So it's a 90% cab with 10% Petit Verdot. So it's all about ageability, but it's got those beautiful dark aromatics of the cab coming through with a hint of like a slight dried herb on the side, which I think pairs beautifully with lamb, particularly Karoo lamb that we get in this country because of that natural herbal tone to the lamb itself. So.
I love the wines because they've got lots going on, especially on the nose, you know. And I can just imagine, you know, allowing it to breathe a little bit more, just that bouquet just opening up even more.
It opens up a lot more, and it's one of our philosophies at the farm, is that we try, when we're making the wines, we try and view it with food and dishes. And we look for texture and aromatic profiles and things that we can work together with the foods. And for us, and I think it might be because I've spent a lot of time working in France, it's very important for me to have wines that go with food rather than its individual entity. I'm always looking for that sort of partnership going together.
It's interesting. So the owner of the farm, Madame Lankesang, I mean, how did she get involved? How did you get involved working now for her? And, you know, what is her involvement? Is she very involved in the farm?
Well, it's actually an incredible story. I mean, she came out to start this project at the age of 79, and she sold everything up in France and moved out here. And her heritage, she is the ex-owner of Chateau Pichon Comtesse de Lalande, which is a famous Bordeaux chateau. But growing up, she was born in Chateau Ducru-Bocao, and she grew up in Chateau Parma. So she's got a long Bordeaux heritage in the wine game. And then at the age of 79, she came out here because in 1993, she was president of the IWSC, which is the International Wine and Spirits Competition. And in her tenure as president, she started the Pichon Lalande Trophy, which was the best blended red in the world. And South African farms have actually won it the most times. And she built up a fantastic relationship with a lot of the people, like Beyers Trutte and Dani Statler and guys that had won it. And it stimulated her to travel here. And then she decided, actually, this is a place that I think has huge potential and it's untapped, and it's something that we should look into doing.
You know what's interesting? I actually cooked at a function in Franschhoek. You know, the Lacotte wine cells, and
Yes.
she was visiting them, and I did a dinner for them, you know, way back, and it was, I remember I cooked springbok and foie gras, you know, and
Fantastic.
she was quite complimentary, and that's where I remember her from. Great lady.
She is a fantastic lady, and she's a real inspiration to us. I mean, not only starting a venture at her age, but she's got a wealth of knowledge, and she's lived through, if you think about her lifetime, she's lived through an incredibly interesting period in history. I mean, through the Second World Wars and she really was at the forefront of breaking Bordeaux into the Asian market and things like that, and rebuilding Bordeaux into what it is today. So she's quite interesting to sit down and chat to her and hear her insights.
Look, let's talk about the farm itself. Where is it exactly? And are you guys open for wine tastings?
We're based in Stellenbosch, in the Idas Valley. So our next door neighbour for people that want a reference point would be Rustenburg Wines. It's an old property in the sense that it was an old farm. It was started back in the late 1600s, but it has always been a fruit farm in its entire existence until 2003, when Madame de Lankesang purchased it and converted it to vines. But what was fantastic about it is, if you look at the soils, how old the soils are and things like that, it's really perfect for producing quality wines. And our aspect is quite unusual because we have got a predominance of east-facing slopes, which makes a big difference because viticulturally we can do things quite different.
It's a beautiful area there.
It's a stunning area.
It's sort of like hidden away from the rest of Stellenbosch.
It is, and that's what, it's like a little jewel that's hidden away, and people really have to go out of their way to come and find us, because you're not on the main routes. But I think they are really rewarded when they come, because the views that we have and the aspects is incredible. And there's also a glass museum that we have on the property. And the reason why we've got this glass museum is because Madame de Lankesang is passionate about glass. But we feel that glass and wine share many of the similar attributes. And if you think about it philosophically, they do. I mean, the greatest wines in the world come from vines planted in poorer soils that you get. Glass comes from the poorer soil, there is sand. Both require heat in their manufacture. You need the heat of the furnace, you need heat of the sun. They're both art forms in their own rights. They're both liquids in their basic alchemic states. And so there's many nuances that they share.
Look, I have to compliment you on your wines. Really, really, you know, it's, I don't want to say it tastes like French wines that I've tasted before, because it obviously it's got that distinct South African angle as well, and I'm sure that's what you want.
Yeah.
But really beautiful wines, and it's going to be difficult. It's difficult for me to choose which one I'm going to go for, but The Lady May really, I think, was spot on with this specific dish.
I have to agree with you. I thought it was the most seamless pairing that went on with it.
Yes,
So,
it's almost as if it really, lifted those flavors even more. But saying that, I mean, I could easily just enjoy the Grand Vin with it as well. So thanks for joining us on our last episode. It's really great. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thanks for making the time. I know you guys are very busy at this time. If you see Madam Maida Lankasang again, just a reminder of that one dinner I cooked for her.
I'll certainly do that.
Okay.
So I'm sure she'll remember it because anything with foie gras. I think
Yeah, I know, she loves that, being a Frenchie. But listen, thank you very much. It's been
Thanks
great.
so much.
Thanks.
Cheers.